the recording here. Great. Okay. Alhamdulillah, was it Monday? We were able to discuss the topic of Hujjiyatul Hadith. The reason this has come up, as you may remember, is because of when we started the Surah Abasa, we are discussing that the Sabbun Nuzul of the surah is that the blind Sahabi Abdullah bin Maktoum, he came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was already discussing with the leaders of the Quraysh and trying to giving da'wah to them and whatnot. And then we kind of took a step back and we said that how exactly do we understand these ayat if we don't have hadith literature to explain them? So Abasa wa tawalla, he frowned and he turned away. You wouldn't be able to understand what this is referring to, what's the context of this verse unless you accepted the narrations that go along with it. Okay, great. So any questions regarding Hujjiyatul Hadith before we begin? Okay. No. It is an important topic, so anything else that if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Send it on the group or even right now if you guys want. But the more, honestly, the more you read about this, inshallah, the better understanding you'll have about why exactly is it so important? Why exactly is there such an emphasis on this? As well as if people have questions or even objections, then inshallah we'll be better prepared to answer these. The second, there's quite a few discussions that I had noted down before we even actually even get into the surah that I wanted to discuss was the topic of Ismatul Anbiya. Ismatul Anbiya is our belief that the prophets are sinless, that they are ma'asum, that they are protected, or it's not even possible for them to commit sin. So, in this book by Muslim Sheikh Shadi, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with him. He's visited DS quite a number of times, and he does a couple of these programs, and especially like Aqidah is his thing, and he's a very competent, capable scholar in. I think he's in New Jersey right now, mashallah, doing a lot of great work out there. He has his madrasa and his institution called Safina Society, which they have also a lot of really, really great stuff and doing a lot of great community work and have their madrasa and whatnot. And mashallah, you guys could check them out. He even has a podcast actually, which is really, really beneficial. If you guys should definitely just subscribe to his email or something, whatever is available on their website. And if you could give those podcasts a listen, it's definitely worth it. I think recently he actually had a Sheikh Amin from Dar al Qasim on, and they were just talking about some really, really great stuff, mashallah. Anyway, so what does he say? He says that there are a couple of qualities that are necessary for prophets. The first being, so he mentions four, and he says that the first is sidq, or truthfulness, which is that one's words reflect reality. And that, so basically saying that a prophet, it's not possible for him to lie or to say something that goes against the truth. The second quality that the prophets have is amana, or faithfulness. So now, how is this different from truthfulness? He'll get into that now. Truthfulness is in what one utters and says. So the first quality is regarding to what a prophet's speech. He will never say anything that goes against reality. Amana, however, faithfulness is in what one is given. Meaning, if a faithful person is given a trust to keep, they safeguard it. So now, how does it apply to a prophet more specifically? It's that they are people who are safe guardians or safeguarders of the divine law. And so now this is pretty much where our topic comes up, is that if they are safeguarders of the divine law, then it's not possible for them to go against that divine law. So this includes the divine law, and as such, amana implies that they will never disobey Allah Ta'ala. The only time the Messenger ﷺ did something frowned upon, it was done intentionally to show its legal ruling as discouraged and not forbidden. Meaning, if a prophet, if our Nabi ﷺ, for example, he did something that was what the Hanafiya would deem as makruh, it was to show that it's makruh and not haram or something. Does that make sense? Great. The other two qualities, I'll just mention them because we're going through the list, is that tabligh, or conveyance of what they were ordered to convey. So, yeah, just like the Prophet ﷺ, it was his responsibility to teach people the Quran and spread the Quran, and on top of that, as well as all the injunctions that the Sharia deals with, like praying, salah. It was his job to teach the people these things, and it's not possible for him to hide any hukam or something and not tell the people about it. And lastly, we have fatana, or the height of intelligence, for the intelligent could not follow a dim-witted leader. Furthermore, the enterprise of establishing a deen in the earth is of the most difficult task and requires the presentation of undeniable proofs that last the test of time. So a prophet, of course, he has to have um, the language skills, the like those quick wittedness that that arguments and debates might require. So these are things that the prophets also, the quality that they have as well. So those are the four qualities of the prophets. And now I just wanted to read, that was from the first book that I read. It's called The Science of Tawheed by Dr. Shadi. The second thing is in Da'ul Ma'ali, which is a commentary, a sharah on Bad'ul Amali, which is a pretty, like I would call it maybe like a beginner intermediate work in Maturidi Aqidah, where he discusses the same topic of Isbatul Anbiya. That actually, Bad'ul Amali is actually a poem. I think it's, how many lines does it have? Only about 68 like abiyat. It has 68 verses of the poem. So he gives pretty general, comprehensive, like the aqidah of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah in just about 70 lines, mashallah. So in the 29th bayt, he says, وَإِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ لَفِي أَمَانٍ عَنِ الْعِصْيَانِ عَمْدًا وَانْعِزَالِ. The translation is that the prophets are in security, they are secure, عَنِ الْعِصْيَانِ, from disobedience, amdan wa izali, where they from willingly and intentionally disobeying Allah Ta'ala, and from in'izal. He's just described it in just a few moments, so let's just read the sharah. Li'isyan mukhalafatul amri qasdan. This is important, that he's saying that the anbiya, the prophets, are what? They are free from isyan. What is isyan? Mukhalafatul amri qasdan, to go against the command, and in this case, of course, the command of Allah Ta'ala, qasdan, intentionally. Bikhilaf is zalla. This is different from what we'd call a zalla, which is just a lapse, a mistake, not intentional. فإنها مخالفة الأمر سهوا, that because a zalla, or a lapse in judgment, is just you apparently go against the command of the authority, but that is by accident. الأنبياء عليهم السلام معصومون عن أنواع الكفر مطلقا. So it's قبل البعثة وبعدها بالإجماع. So by ijma', the consensus is that all of the prophets, they were all free from kufr, whether they before becoming a prophet or after becoming a prophet. This is by ijma', that the anbiya never ever fell into kufr before their prophethood or after. وكذا عن سائر الكبائر عمدا باتفاق العلماء المعتبرين. And likewise, by ijma', it is agreed that they never commit major sins. This is again by باتفاق العلماء, that they never intentionally commit major sins. ومحله بعثته كما يشير. Okay, we can skip that part. And they'll never do any صغائر, which are debasing, على الخصة كسرقة لقمة. Okay, so they never do any of these صغائر that kind of take away from their the position that they have. And then he gives a quote: فنقل ابن جماعة أن المعصية ضد الطاعة والأنبياء معصومون عن الكبائر والصغائر عمدا وسهوا. That he says that the Anbiya are protected, ma'soom, from kaba'ir and sagha'ir, from major and minor sins, whether doing them intentionally or unintentionally. And then he gives some details about like maybe some small ikhtilaf. What about, like, some might say that it is possible for them to, like, it's logically possible for them to commit minor sins, possibly without but this has never happened before. So it's like there's just like it's just a little too much at that point. But yeah, so it's basically, just to recap it all, it's that the ijma' that the anbiya never ever commit sins, and that the ittifaq of the ulama on this. There's also one other point that perhaps you guys are familiar with this topic. It says وَيُقَالُ فِي الْأَنْبِيَاءِ مَعْصُومُونَ. So in regards to prophets, we say that they are ma'asum, that they definitely cannot commit sins. وَفِي الْأَوْلِيَاءِ مَحْفُوظُونَ. So for example, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. وَفِي الْأَوْلِيَاءِ, with regards to just really, really close servants of Allah Ta'ala, they are considered mahfuz, they are protected. So ma'asum would be something like it's definitely a level beyond being mahfuz. Mahfuz, of course, that we're saying like it's some protected, and like we say hafiz, hifz, to protect something. So these people are mahfuz. They're free. They are protected from sin. Allah Taala just doesn't let that happen to them or put them in that situation. Whereas ma'asum is that they literally can't do it at all. لفرق دقيق بينهما ليس هنا محل بسطه. So he's not going to explain that now. He'll explain it somewhere else. Mm. And then he says, when, like we said, عن العصيان عمدا وانعزالي, that it's that the prophets are actually never ever taken out of their position of being prophethood. So, for example, there's no such thing as a prophet gaining prophethood and then he like does something that has his prophethood be taken away from him. That's also not possible. However, he says that in regards to awliya, وهذا بخلاف حال الأولياء فإنه قد يسلب منهم الولاية كما يسلب الإيمان من المؤمن في الخاتمة. نسأل الله العافية. He says that this is different than actually the this is a difference between the prophets and the awliya. It's that it's possible for a wali, for a friend of Allah Ta'ala, for his piety to be taken away and snatched away, just like how we see that a Muslim or a mu'min, his iman is taken away from him at the time of his death. And nasallallahu al-afiyah, that we ask Allah Ta'ala to never put us in that position. ويؤيده أنه سئل الجنيد هل يزني العارف بالله وقال وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا، لكن ذكر بعده أن من رجع إنما رجع من الطريق لا من وصل إلى الفريق، كما قال شيخ مشايخنا أبو الحسن البكري الإيمان إذا دخل القلب أمن من السلب. He says that true iman, the iman in reality, what is it? It's that when it enters a heart, it will never ever be taken away. We ask Allah Ta'ala for this type of iman. ويشير إليه قوله تعالى فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها. So whoever disbelieves in all these false idols and he believes in Allah Ta'ala, then what has he done? فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى. He has grasped on firmly to the al-urwa al-wuthqa. This like it's majaz. It's like a metaphor for just he has a very very strong faith. لا انفصام لها. He will never separate from it. Okay, last thing. ويؤيد حديث هرقل وكذلك الإيمان حين تخلط بشاشته القلوب لا يسخط أبدا. رواه البخاري. That when iman enters the deepest crevices of the heart, then it will never ever be taken away. So yeah, again, we ask that Allah Ta'ala grant us this quality and level of iman. Have you guys also discussed the difference of like kayfiyya and kamiyya regards to iman? Like the difference between iman, Islam, and these types of things? No, I'm not good. Maybe we could add that to the list, but let's just try to stick to topic. So, are prophets sinless? This is something that a lot of people will object to. They'll say that, okay, well, you have Adam alayhi salam's eating from the tree. You have Isa alayhi salam. I guess this doesn't, I mean, people will bring this up, but like Isa alayhi salam, what happens is that people worship him, so maybe that's his fault. That's actually something that's in the, I don't know if you guys remember that really long hadith about the Shafa'at al-Kubra that I had sent a couple of classes ago regarding on the day of judgment. You know how everyone's going to be like frantically running around asking the prophets to ask Allah, like we're asking you, O Prophet, to ask Allah Ta'ala to begin the like the intercession because everyone's just like freaking out standing there. Then what happens? Adam alayhi salam says, no, I ate from the tree, and then we got kicked out of Jannah. They go to Isa alayhi salam. He says that no, I did the mistake of people ended up worshiping me. Musa alayhi salam says, no, I killed a person, and so on and so forth until they reached Nabi sallallahu alayhi salam. So anyone, I'll leave this to you guys. Anyone have a response to these objections? That all these prophets, they did something that they're admitting is a fault on the day. Like this is coming in like a hadith, Sahih hadith about that they're admitting that they did something that's blameworthy. Wouldn't this go against our aqidah of the prophets being ma'soom? Yeah, so go ahead. So why are they so afraid of it? So there's different jawabs to the different situations. But yeah, so we still affirm that the prophets are sinless, and that these instances, and even actually even beyond this, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with some of the Christian beliefs regarding their prophets. It's really some messed up stuff. I think like they say about like Dawood alayhi salam, he fell in love with a woman, and he what did he do? Like she was married, so he sent off that dude to go fight in the war, and then he knew that that dude was gonna lose his, he's gonna die. So then he just sent him to the war so that that dude could die, and then he could marry his wife. Um, or like I think about Ayyub alayhi salam, they said that na'udhu billah, that he was like committing incest with his daughters and stuff like that. Just really, really really, really bad stuff. So that's stuff that we don't even confirm in our tradition. And I actually like, because we know we have this belief of the prophets being sinless, we actually reject those things outright. Say that that's not true. That's not possible at all. But yeah, so these different things that happened with the prophets. So for example, Adam alayhi salam, I had sent the paper of Mufti Saab's the translation of what Mufti Rada al-Haq says regarding the explanation as to Adam alayhi salam eating from the tree. Actually, if you guys want to, let me just let's say it without having to go through all of it. It's just gonna take way too much time. Yeah, you have a question? Go ahead. Yeah, they're able to hear me. Okay, right? Okay, Google. Muhammad Noor. Yeah, I think you're raising your hand. No, no, you're fine. Go ahead. No, this thing. So, like Adam alayhi salam, Mufti Sa gives quite a few jawabs, but he says that I believe one of his answers is that Adam alayhi, they're in, first of all, they're in Jannah. There's no such thing as sin. So he didn't. I mean, you can't. How are you going to commit sin in Jannah? It's not like we're going to be there and then, inshallah, we're going to be there and we're going to be able to commit sin in Jannah. There's actually quite a few jobs that he gives. Or for example, Musa alayhi salam's incident is that he he had punched an individual and that person ended up dying. So this is where there's a differentiation between sin and legal responsibility. So, for example, if I had, obviously, like if I bump it, if I had, what's a good example? Like if you're, it's not that you're not paying attention. Let's say just you accidentally like bump into someone and you break something of theirs, and like you push them or you fall, like you can't like you just you bump into someone, they have a serious injury, you break something, and so now although you and it was a complete accident, although you may not get sin, you still could be legally responsible for repairing those damages, or you know possibly even like facing jail time or something like that. So that's something that might happen. That's the explanation to Musa alayhi salam's incident, is that he didn't mean to kill that individual, but a person can still be like responsible for the fact that some damage did occur. What else is there? Isa alayhi salam's incident at, I believe, is at the end of Surah Ma'idah, where where he says that where that there's that questioning back and forth between him and Allah Ta'ala about that. Did you tell these people to worship you and your mother after your death? And he says um that of course not, and you know better than me, that you know exactly what's in my heart, and I don't know what's I don't know what's in your heart, quote unquote. So these are all, like you said, these are all things that definitely have an explanation, and our Ismatul Anbiya discussion is still, our belief of Ismatul Anbiya is still intact. Any questions regarding that though? I think I don't want to go through Mufti Sal's paper, because what's going to happen is that like last time we on Friday we went on, sorry, on Monday we had gone through like the Hujjiyat al Hadith presentation, and we had went through the Mufti Mo Yusuf Ghaus's paper, and then that literally took up the entire. Can you explain the analogy of the Prophet Musa alayhi salam situation a little more? So the difference is like, okay, so we know that anytime we accidentally commit a sin, okay, let me rephrase that. Anytime you accidentally do a something that is not, okay, so oh my gosh. So for example, drinking water during while you're fasting during the month of Ramadan, does that break the fast? Yes. If a person does it intentionally, are they sinful? Yes. But let's say you're making your wudu and you're just trying to, you're just trying to rinse your mouth out because, I mean, that's how you make wudu. So now you're just trying to rinse your mouth out and then you accidentally drink the water. Do you get sin? No. You accidentally drank the water. You didn't mean to. It was not what you didn't intentionally drink the water. Do you get the sin? No. But does your fast still break? Yes, it does. So that's the legality of it. If someone's driving very, very carefully and, and I'm not sure if this one, but like something, some kid runs out on the road and or someone runs out on the road and they end up getting injured or dying. Now, if the person could still be held liable for the damages that were incurred by that party. However, they won't be sinful for that thing if they were of course driving carefully and they were doing their due diligence and whatnot. Does that make sense, Ihram? How do we interpret the physical force? Something that he didn't intend to like actually kill the individual. Like, are you asking like was it okay for him to do that in the first place? If no, it's like like if you see two guys fighting in the gym, you might have to get rough too to break that fight up, which is pretty much what the situation, right? That was happening between those two individuals who he confronted. Like it's not you can't two guys are fighting in the gym, they're big guys, like you're not gonna be able to just like calm them down with your words. You have to kind of get in there and just like rough them up a little bit too to try to break it up, and you know what I'm saying? Okay, great. Any other questions regarding this? Did I miss out a prophet? I feel like I'm missing it. So we have Adam alayhi salam's eating from the tree, which you guys can read inshallah from the document. There was the Musa alayhi salam thing. The Isa alayhi salam thing really doesn't even count, honestly. But is there anything else? I don't think so, right? Okay, so why am I bringing this up? Is because will we say that this is a sin by Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which he's being reprimanded for? No, we will not. We will say that this was the ijtihad of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam when he decided to turn away from this blind Sahabi that approached him, and then the itab or the correction came from Allah Taala. There's also another ayah which alludes to this topic, which is the second ayah of Surah Fath in the 26th parah. We have Allah Ta'ala says, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina liyaghfira." This is the same thing. It's the whole Ismatul Anbiya, the Ismatul Anbiya thing. ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما. Allah, now listen, if we translate this literally, the ayah number 2 of Surah Fath. So Allah Ta'ala says, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina." We have granted you a great victory. ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك. So that Allah Ta'ala may forgive the what sins have already occurred. That Allah Ta'ala may forgive you, O Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what sins may have occurred in your past, and those sins that you're going to commit in the future, He's already forgiven them. That would be the literal translation of this. So now, how would we understand this ayah number 2 of Surah Fath in light of what we've discussed? There's a lot of jawabs that are given, and they all make sense. None of them are like you're stretching the truth, or like you're trying to like play with words or something regarding like the ayah and just trying to like what's it called? Just being biased with your opinion. Actually, all of them make a lot of sense. So the first one is ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر. We have them. This is referring to the ذنب المؤمنين, that that Allah Ta'ala is, although He's referring to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's referring to the sins of the people that were with him, and like the true believers are going to be forgiven by Allah Ta'ala. Number 2 is Tarkul Afdal, that for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all the times where he did it, Tarkul Afdal means that he chose maybe not the best choice, but he still didn't choose a wrong choice. So those things that are forgiven. Number 3 is the Saghair, which we discussed. Perhaps, when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was demonstrating a makruh thing, and to show that it's makruh and not haram or like completely forbidden, then those things are forgiven and overlooked. We have more حسنات الأبرار سيئات المقربين. Have you guys ever heard of this? حسنات الأبرار سيئات المقربين. It means that the you have an average, like solid masjid going Muslim who's, he's there for Fajr, he's there for all the bayans. That really solid Muslim guy, his good deeds would be considered the sins of the closest servants of Allah Ta'ala. Does that make sense? That, there's some people that just have, although that guy, mashallah, he's doing everything right, there's some people that are just at like a really, really high level. So for them to do those things would be a sin, quote unquote, right? Uh, ما تقدم من ذنبك, that this is going to be referring to those things which are خلاف الأولى. Mm. Oh, this is good. Number 7 is, had there been any sins of yours, would have already been forgiven. We would have forgave any of your past and future sins had there been any at all. Number 8, al-khata' fil ijtihad. So now this is what applies to our abasa situation. That any time that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he himself was allowed to make a personal choice in a situation. Like for example, should he keep giving da'wah to these Qurashi leaders who he was speaking to in Surah Abasa, or should he turn to this blind Sahabi of his? He chose that. Hey, I think it'd be better to speak to these Qurashi non-Muslim leaders. Maybe give them da'wah. Maybe I could attend to him later. However, this was his like his reasoning, his personal ijtihad, his personal reasoning that he made in the situation. And therefore, Allah Ta'ala is saying that يَغْفِرُ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ, that we have forgiven any of these, any time that maybe your ijtihad wasn't correct and we had to inform you of what to do next. Is there 9 is, subhanAllah, lack of ineffective da'wah. That Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what does Allah Ta'ala say? فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ. That it's like you're trying to give so much da'wah to every single individual, everybody you could see, you could talk to, you're trying to give them da'wah. Sometimes they just don't believe, and to you feel like you're being ineffective. You feel like you're the problem, that you're not getting the job done. So we are. That's it's not on you. That's all been forgiven. That's the ninth explanation, and the 10th, to gain forgiveness through Hajj and Umrah. Okay, that has more to do with like the Surah Fath concept, which we'll maybe do at a different time, inshallah, in the future. Okay. Any, yeah, go ahead. Say that this was like muqaddar, and um, yeah, why not? I mean, so you're saying that the reason that these situations happen is to do bayan of what what the appropriate response to that situation should be. So could you repeat? I think your voice is cutting out a little bit here. Let me try. Yeah. Okay. So is this situation is it possible that the whole reason that this situation happened is because Allah Ta'ala wants it to be a lesson of how the Muslim should respond if they're in a similar situation? Okay. Well, we're gonna actually get to that because of the specific wording that comes up in the actually just the first couple of beginning ayahs of the surah, inshallah. But I mean, yeah, I mean everything is muqaddar, so you could all the different situations that happen. That's that response generally does come up. I wouldn't say it's like the strongest response though, because it's kind of like a cop out trying to play with the taqdeer card. And then you could say that like for like all the different like even like the fiqh rulings that the reason that like for example, when he traveled in Safar, or like there was one situation where like Bilal radiallahu an, he was appointed to call the Fajr adhan while they were traveling, and then what happened? He fell asleep too. So then everyone fell asleep through Fajr, and then when they woke up, what had happened? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a bit upset, and he moved from that area. And you could say that okay, yeah, of course that was muqaddar from Allah Taala, and why did He let that happen? Was again, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not sinful in that situation because a person is not mukallaf when they're sleeping. So and he had done his due diligence to like wake up on time. And so then, what was I saying? So then, what was I saying? So then, when they moved from that area, then they ended up praying that Fajr Salah, and then now we know what to do. Is it now we know that because Allah Taala allowed that situation to happen, we know that okay, yeah, we learned a few rulings. Like for example, a person is allowed to pray if everyone misses the same Salah, they're allowed to make qada together. So like things like that. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So Van, you have your hand up. Mhm. So that would also be I believe the response is the al khata fil ijtihad that he thought it was okay for him to go, and that was like his personal like his understanding of what is allowed for him to do and whatnot. And so then he ended up making the khata fil ijtihad, and that's what he was did his istighfar for as well. I'll just double check that as well to make sure that maybe there's like a different explanation that the mufassirin and the Kalimun give for that, but that would seems like it would probably just be khata fil ijtihad, and that he just made the wrong choice in that situation about whether he should. Yeah, I would say those go hand in hand. It's like that's the reason that he is something that like factored into his judgment as to whether he should continue giving the. Oh, yeah, okay. Actually, it's like he thought that it'd be better for him to just go to another town and maybe they have more talab and they seem to be more accepting of his message or more receptive to it, and that's why he decided to leave. So yeah, it has to do with his own ijtihad, and then he was corrected for that. Yunus Ali. I think that was probably the major one that I had missed. I knew I was forgetting somebody. If there's anyone else, please let me know, inshallah. But okay, we could move on. Yeah, great. So one thing just to remember, one last thing to remember is that we have to have utmost respect for when dealing with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially like in these types of situations. We don't want to say something where we're disrespecting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, exactly, like we're saying that the reason he turned away and he frowned was what? It was his ijtihad, and Allah Taala is correcting his ijtihad. So now, so are we going to say that he did a wrong ijtihad? Or rather, a better way to phrase it would be that a person who is a mujtahid, like the imams in fiqh, if they make a decision, they're all great, brilliant, the greatest, like some of the greatest scholars of our entire ummah. They were definitely capable of doing ijtihad. So when they made ijtihad and they came to different conclusions, now one of them is right, one is whatever one is right, whatever one is wrong. What does Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that the mujtahid who practices ijtihad, a proper mujtahid who practices ijtihad, the one who's correct is going to get two rewards, whereas the one who's incorrect, he still get one reward. Because why? He's doing this ibadah of ijtihad. So we won't say that like Nabi sallallahu alaihi, like we still have to make sure we keep our respect when dealing with these types of situations regarding possible mistakes in ijtihad of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well as the other prophets. We definitely don't want to say anything that is offensive to his status because I mean I'm sure you guys have had this conversation more than enough times that this is really detrimental to our aqidah. and we want to make sure that we have the utmost respect for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam at all times. So like when sometimes you'll be dealing with people who they'll say like, oh, it's just a hadith, or it's just it's just sunnah. That's a major statement to make. We have to be very careful of saying things like that. Inshallah. Can prophets sin? Okay, we discussed that. Okay, Abasa what we can get started with the tarjuma now. Inshallah. Any questions so far about what we've discussed? I think the Adam alayhi salam's one, or both of those documents I had sent, definitely worth the read if you guys have the time. The Adam alayhi salam's one is quite interesting as well. Mufti Saab has a really unique way of explaining things, and it's just actually mind blowing, mashallah. Okay, so Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma. That the Nabi. Anyone want to translate? I'll just kind of quickly go through it since we only have 25 minutes. I Thobani, I go ahead. But عبس وتولى أن جاءه الأعمى. Good. Okay, so abasa ya'bisu from daraba yadribu. Abasan or ubusan means to. Like like in English we say frown, but when we say frown, we usually mean like it's like an indication of like the whole face, or like especially of the lips. Like your mouth becomes like an arch upside down, where you're actually frowning and your lips go low, and so. But rather, abasa or ubus means like for a um like someone might, what do you call it, like their eyebrows kind of go in, and their like forehead gets a little bit, the middle part of their forehead kind of like crinkles up. That's what ubus is. That the expression is visible, like just like at one part of your face and not the rest of your face, as opposed to ثم عبس وبصر. Basar is in that context of Surah Mudathir is like a person's like entire face becomes like really ugly. They're really mad. They're really upset. Galah is when a person they're like really they're like so angry they start grinding their teeth, and they're like you could visibly see it in their mouth that they're like that they're angry and upset about something. So Abbas is like the lowest type of upset that you could possibly show a person, which is interesting actually, because we're saying if it's just the indication of the face, and then which is anja'ahu al-a'ma, that the blind person came to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he made that very small indication with his face that he was upset. Of course, a blind person is not going to be able to see that, but Allah Taala has, because of the special relationship that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has with Allah Taala. What happens is that he's even recording this, and he's showing them that although the blind individual wasn't able to see you, I recognize what you did. What tawalla, he turned away from him. 16. Nope. Because the blind person came to him. Yes, great. You said because. So this an is an. This an is which type of an? Masdariya. Meaning like, so that would make like this following sentence. So why did he frown? Why did he turn away? Anja ul ha'ama, because it will make it the maf'ul li ajlihi, the reason. The reason he frowned was because the blind individual came to him, which we said was Abdullah ibn Ummi Maktoum. وما يدريك لعله يزكى أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. Go ahead. Those two ayahs. Good. Okay. So yazakka, what sigha is this? This is a tricky one. Anyone? Yazakka. Yafa'ala. That's one of those, right? Yafa'ala. What do you mean? Exception to the rule. This is Yazakka was originally Yatazakka, and I'm sure you guys learned that sometimes similar letters can sometimes join and become one. So anyone have another example? From yatazakka, you get yazzakka. Another example would actually just be in the next word. Oh, yadhakkaru. Yatadhakkaru, yadhakkaru. That these similar letters join and they become one word. Yatatahharuna, yattahharuna. Allah yuhibbul mutatahhirin, muttahhirin. Understand? So it's originally yatazakka. So what tools do you have? How would you know, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, لعله يزكى, that perhaps he may have been seeking to purify himself? أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. Yeah, or received advice, or يذكر means to remember, so that he can remember, like Allah Ta'ala, he can remember the reminder. فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى, then this reminder, الذِّكْرَى, the great reminder, would have benefited him. So this الذِّكْرَى is referring to the Quran, Revelation. So now what is, okay, so now I just, because we had talked about it on Monday, let me just repeat it. Now what is the context again? This Abdullah bin Maktoum, he came to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he said, calling out, he says, Ya Muhammad, allimni bima allamak Allah. He's saying, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, teach me what God has taught you. And of course now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is in this gathering of the Quraysh, and he decides to turn away from them. So now what is this thing that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has been taught by Allah Ta'ala? This is the Quran. So this dhikra is referring to the Quran. So he's asking, like, for the verses to be recited to him so that he could do like hifl of it, or just to learn a masala, or and so on and so forth. So what tools do you have to know that he yet how would you know, O Prophet? For he may have been seeking to purify himself, or he may be seeking to remember Allah Ta'ala such that the reminder might benefit him. أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى. Okay, two more ayahs, Salman. Okay, أما من استغنى. So استغنى, يستغني, استغنى. Come, the root letters are غين, noon, yeah, right? From غنى. You guys know, I'm sure you get غنى. غنى is a person who thinks that they're sufficient. A person who is sufficient. Like what we say, Wallahu, Allahu al-Ghani, that Allah Ta'ala is free from everything, and that He is self-sufficient. Or if you say that in reference to like an actual person, then it would be like a rich person. Ghani is used for a rich person. Istighna gives the meaning of, what's the khasiyah of istif'al? Yeah, yeah. So these are the people that they deem themselves to have already have this ghina. So, أما من استغنى, as for he who deems himself as self-sufficient, فأنت له تصدى. Turning, you are constantly turning to him. You are directing to him your full attention. So no, the fear of this, as we said, what exactly was it that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam may have accidentally did incorrectly? What was the problem? This is going back to your question that you asked Arsalan, and then I said we'll actually be discussing it right now in the beginning. What exactly is it that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being blamed for? So it's called. I mean, so what's so wrong with that? The Qurashi leaders, of course, they're people who, I mean, they're non-Muslims. To speak to them would be to, you could I mean, like that just makes sense. You would want to make someone a Muslim before you. If you have two people come to you asking you a question, non-Muslim and a Muslim, and you feel like this Muslim has the non-Muslim, genuinely wants to learn, then you would answer his question first because the Muslim could wait, right? So what's wrong with that? That's what we're saying you should do, right? If like imagine you're the imam and a non-Muslim comes asking you about like they're genuinely asking you about like Allah Taala and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, whereas you have a Muslim just asking you about like some random masala about like is this food halal to eat, that food like that guy can wait. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not like something that's gonna it's no question. You'd want to discuss about iman and stuff first, no? Not going to accept. No, I mean he can't know the ghaib though. How would he know that? So what exactly is he being blamed? Anyone else want to take a guess, or maybe we could just jump into that? So the reason, actually, I was playing devil's advocate right now, but I made a very very bold assumption that I was hoping that maybe someone would catch is that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he himself thinks that, okay, I have the opportunity to preach to these individuals who could really make a huge difference in their community. These are the leaders of the Quraysh, right? They're not small people. If I speak to them and they accept Islam, and I hardly get this opportunity, if I speak to them and I'm able to convince these people to become Muslim, then these people could make a lasting impact on the Makkans, on the other Makkans around us. However, this individual who's coming to me, he's a Muslim, like I said, and he's priority number two. Like, let me first deal with these people who I hardly get to speak to, as opposed to the Qurashis. Now, what is Allah Taala saying? He's saying that وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَكَّى أَوْ يَذَكَّرُ فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى. Allah Ta'ala is saying that this individual, he has this true talab. That this Anja'ul A'ma, this Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he has a talab to learn. He actually has this talab to learn and to gain ilm and to get closer and to, what is it, to yadhakkaru, so that he has the talab to remember Allah Ta'ala and to purify himself. فَتَنْفَعُهُ الذِّكْرَى, or he has the talab to, at least change something about him, and maybe something that you say, this advice that you give him, maybe it'll even help him out in the future. فَتَنْفَعُهُ الذِّكْرَى. As opposed to, what's the problem with the other party? أَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى فَأَنْتَ لَهُ تَصَدَّى. These are the people that you're constantly turning your attention towards. But the problem is now, you didn't know this before. Now I'm telling you now is that these people they don't have the talab. They think they're ghani. They have istighna. They think that these people that you're hoping to convert and to give this da'wah to, they're never going to listen to your call, and you're wasting your time with them pretty much. فأنت له تصدق وما عليك ألا يزكى, and it's not your responsibility. There's no blame on you that if they don't. It's not your burden if they never purify themselves. وأما من جاءك يسعى, as for the one who's coming to you and he's like rushing to you, he's turning his full attention to you, seeking guidance. وهو يخشى, wow, حاليا, he is in a state of fearing Allah Taala. فأنت عنه تلهى, that's the individual that you're diverted from. So the this the scale, or this like rule of thumb that Allah Ta'ala is showing Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, especially in this situation, is that the real difference between about who you should be giving your attention to is those individuals that have talab. Does that make sense? But Nabi Sallallahu, yeah, go ahead. That if Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so these individuals that he didn't know that these people did not have talab, and Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he does have the talab to learn. So why is he being blamed for not even knowing in the first place? No, no. Yeah, he definitely. I'm confused. He definitely did not know. وما يدريك. That he didn't even have the tools to know as to who's going to be like the receptive party or not. So, but then he still has to try, right? What's your question exactly? If he doesn't know that they have talab or not, why is he being? He's being held accountable for the action that he did of turning away from an individual. So, and now he's being corrected as to and being shown what to do towards the right, the correct towards the correct thing to do. I don't think I fully understand your question. I don't even think that answer made sense right now. No, one more time. Does anyone else? Maybe someone else could re-explain his question, and then that. Why is he being blamed if he didn't even know in the first place? That's the whole point. Like he's being corrected now in this situation to do what is right. Mhm. I'm not following. I'm sorry. For sure. I'm sorry, man. Um, وأما من جاءك يسعى وهو يخشى فأنت عنه تلهى. You are turning away from him. Okay. So did we skip any words? Anyone have any questions so far until up until ayah number 10? No? Okay. Great. Okay. So now, كلا إنها تذكرة فمن شاء ذكره. And now, so we just had this whole situation about like what exactly was the sabab nuzul for the beginning of the surah. Now, what Allah Ta'ala is going to discuss is the just like how Abdullah ibn Maktoum he was asking regarding the Quran and علمني بما علمك Allah. Now we're going to be discussing into the maqam and the high status of the Quran and some of its different sifat and its different qualities. So as we'll see how Allah Ta'ala describes it in the following ayat from ayah number 11 until 16. So كلا إنها تذكرة. Soban, do you want to continue or? Right, you're fine, go ahead. Oh, shoot. Sorry. كلا إنها تذكرة. Most okay. Indeed, this is most surely this revelation of the Quran. The innaha is this ha damir is referring to the like the maw'idah, يعني the Quran. إنها تذكرة. That it is a reminder. تذكرة. Yeah. Let whoever wills remember its admonitions. في صحف. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. Up until I number 16. Mhm. Yes, G. Okay, so كلا إنها تذكرة, that indeed it is the Quran is a reminder from شاء ذكر, that whoever wants to be take benefit from it, then he shall remember this reminder. uh, ذكر التذكرة, that who is referring to like this again the Quran, that he will remember, he can recall the Quran and he could gain benefit from it, meaning في صحف مكرمة, it is in these noble pages, or it is recorded on pages most honored. مرفوعة, مرفوعة, elevated, as you said. مطهرة, purified. بأيدي سفرة. So safara could be referring to either like the people in the, like the companions of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who actually write down the verses of Quran, or it could be referring to the malaika who copy from the Lawh, and they actually copy down the Quran. Kiramin barara. These safara, whether they're malaika or they're the companions of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are kiramin barara. They are noble and virtuous. Bir barara. That's where the barara is coming from. Yeah, that's easy, inshallah. قتل الإنسان ما أكفره. Yeah, you said this man. Mhm. Cursed be like the disbelieving man. So, of course, not referring to like the Muslim or the one who's actually doing good, but the individual who's disbelieving in Allah Ta'ala and doing bad deeds, and that's the individual that's being referred to here. Ma akfara. This ma is for ta'ajjub, for amazement, or for something that's like, beyond belief. Ma akfara. How ungrateful he is. Ma akfara. How ungrateful he is. Perished be man, how ungrateful he is. من أي شيء خلقه. من نطفة. Yeah, so min nutfa is like refers to like the sperm that this man. So Allah Taala is saying that min ayyi shay'in khalaqa, like you're this ungrateful, you're this, like you have this much inad, you have this much like of an attitude towards your Lord. When what are you? What's your beginning? What your beginning is that you were created from this a sperm drop. That you're just created from this disgusting, like vile liquid. That's literally your beginning. That you were created from this thing. خلقه فقد, like, so how, basically, like, how do you have this audacity to even claim like that there's no afterlife, or there's, like what Fir'aun did, that أنا ربكم الأعلى, all these different things. That how is it possible when this is your beginning? خلقه فقدر. Allah Ta'ala created him and he did his taqdeer. So this taqdeer, as you said, I think you said fashioned, right? That he fashioned him. Of course, yeah, Allah Ta'ala proportioned the human body and he did all these things, like he designed the human body. Or it could be referring to the actual, like when we say taqdeer, we mean like in aqidah terms, like the predestination, right? The things that Allah Ta'ala has decided. So قال ابن كثير قدر رزقه وأجله وعمله وشقي أو سعيد. That he says that the individual's rizq is decided, and his lifespan is decided, what he's going to do, if he's going to be considered shaqi or sa'id, if he's going to be considered like a jannati or a jahannami. These things are decided. So okay, the qaddara could be referring to both. ثم السبيل يسره. Yes, perfect. So, you guys know bab if'al, its khasiyah is to make a lazim fi'il into muta'addi. So, mata yamutu means to die. Amata yumitu means to make something die. So, Allah Ta'ala is the one that grants that creation death, fa'aqbara, and He buries it in its grave. So, thumma sabila yasra, actually, I skipped that ayah. This is referring to like the birth, that He eases the birthing process. He makes that sabil, that tariq of the mother. He makes it easy for the mother to give birth. So now there's a really really great quote by. So this whole context is referring to how, like, how is it possible that insan could have so much inad, all this audacity to not believe in Allah Ta'ala or to make claims against Allah Ta'ala and so on and so forth. Now what is Allah Ta'ala? Allah Ta'ala basically just putting the individual into their place. He's saying that from us that you were created from the nutfa, and then your mother birthed you, and then you live your life, and we're the one that grant you death, and we place you in your qabr. Hassan al-Basri, he has a quote where he says that كيف يتكبر لما يخرج من الفرجين مرتين. How is it possible for an individual to have kibr, for an individual to have pride, to have this arrogance, to have this attitude towards Allah Ta'ala, for any individual, and to even sin, really? How is it possible for a person to do that when they actually came out of two different private parts? How is it possible that they could have this much audacity? So that's very deep quote from Hassan al-Basri. ثم أماته فأقبره. He granted him death and he buried him. Oh shoot, we are way past the hour. I'm so sorry. Okay, we'll stop here. I didn't even notice. I think my phone is. It's leaning on my laptop and it's covering the camera. It's covering the clock. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, we'll stop here. Inshallah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to message me out. Arsalan, text me. Inshallah. I feel like I did a very terrible job of explaining that. Inshallah, I appreciate you. Jazakumullah khair. All right, assalamu alaikum, everyone.